If you'd asked me for my opinion of Sarah Z a week ago, I would have said, whatever. But then I saw bad media criticism. And, well, yeah, someone's criticism is certainly bad. In her video, Sarah criticizes Lily Orchard's analysis of Steven Universe, which would be fine, except her analysis is full of misquotes, quote mines, misinformation, and uncharitable, empty speculation. But at least it makes the heading she chose ironic. Here's everything she says.
So it's not really a stretch to understand why the former category is bad. I mean, deciding before you even go see a movie that you have to actively find things to hate about it is just never going to make for fair and nuanced criticism. But there are a lot of instances of problematic media criticism where the critic really is expressing a strongly held opinion of theirs. For example, you have Lily Orchard's respective videos about Steven Universe and The Legend of Korra being garbage. This isn't a channel that just makes videos about whatever new movie will generate the most clicks. It seems like she only talks about things that she genuinely cares about. And it's clear from watching even 5 seconds of her Steven Universe video that she feels very strongly about this particular show.
Sugar, you are such a fucking creep! Jesus Christ, Rebecca, are you on fucking Ambien? Do I think Rebecca Sugar is a fascist sympathizer? No. Do I blame anybody who comes to the conclusion that she is based on Steven Universe's content? No.
Now, I'm going to use this Lily Orchard video as a case study for this particular problem, but I do want to make it clear that she is by no means the only person guilty of this. I'm also not choosing Lily's video because I want to personally attack her, nor do I encourage anyone else to do so. This, unfortunately, is a very popular trend as of late, and I chose Lily's video because I think it's a microcosm of a lot of the problems with this particular type of media criticism. From the fact that her video imitates the aesthetic structure but not the analytical substance of well-made media criticism to the unnecessary personal attacks on the show's creator, this video exemplifies many common issues in critical communities. One important thing about Lily's video, as well as many other similar videos, is that they're made by people with a very limited understanding of what the process of creating shows or movies is actually like. That doesn't mean you can't be a media critic unless you went to film school or whatever, but it does mean you should do your research about how the industry works if you're going to talk about it. For example, a substantial chunk of her video is dedicated to criticizing the fact that Steven Universe goes on extremely long hiatuses punctuated with large bursts of episodes all at once, which makes the show's pacing awkward. In and of itself, this is a perfectly good point, and it's a valid reason to not enjoy watching the show. But then, Lily turns around and blames this on the show's animators and storyboarders, claiming that this is somehow emblematic of their laziness, but this is just factually incorrect. The show's crew has repeatedly stated that they have no control over the scheduling of their show and that those decisions are entirely up to the network. This video regularly performs these kinds of factually incorrect overextensions. For example, Lily blames showrunner Rebecca Sugar for designing a contentious scrapped character that many felt evoked racist imagery, despite the fact that the character was created by Lamar Abrams and Hilary Florido. She then criticizes the animation, pointing out some size inconsistencies in certain characters and a few animation mistakes. Fair. But she then ascribes all of the animation errors present on the show to Rebecca Sugar specifically because Sugar draws the keyframes. If you have literally any knowledge of how the animation industry works, you know that this is just not true. You just cannot blame one person for all of the animation problems within a show, and repeatedly singling out one person expresses more of a personal problem with them than anything supported by fact. Furthermore, Lily claims that Rebecca Sugar stole several game-breaking twists, such as character Rose Quartz being the alter ego of supposedly dead leader Pink Diamond, from fans, pointing to the fact that fans had theorized about the twist years before it was revealed. Now, besides the fact that Lily seems to think that foreshadowing working exactly as it was intended to somehow means the show stole the theory from its fans, you would know that this happening is literally impossible if you did even 5 minutes of light Googling on how long it takes between an animated episode being planned and the episode airing. It can quite literally take over a year for an episode to be written, storyboarded, voice acted, sent to Korea for animation, produced, rendered, and sent off to the network for airing. This means that while the episodes that hinted at Rose being Pink Diamond were airing and theories were developing, the episode revealing the twist was already in production. Lily either doesn't know this because she chose not to do any research, or knows this and does not care because the truth of the matter can't be used to insult Rebecca Sugar. And this is a theme that's consistent throughout this video and many others. Lily clearly hates Rebecca Sugar, calling her a fascism apologist and a thoroughly loathsome person, among other things. And because of Lily's personal dislike for Sugar, she's turned to ascribing characters and episodes that Sugar didn't even create as like proof of her detestability. In short, she's taken an unconstructive personal opinion and tried to back it up with factually incorrect evidence that she's framed as objectivity. This kind of tear-down video has unfortunately become more and more common. Instead of explaining why something didn't work in a productive way, a lot of this media criticism has devolved into a desire to definitively destroy something. That was a very alliterative sentence. Failures in storytelling or animation are frequently ascribed to one singular person. This is a common theme in nostalgia critic reviews, and creators are often described with personal attacks on their character. And because this media criticism is often made by people who are uninformed about the entertainment industry and have chosen not to do any research, they feel more like personal opinions than well-substantiated essays. Unfortunately, this illusion of authority has real effects. As it turns out, as long as you speak in an authoritative tone of voice, have some cool background music going on, and play some clips from whatever it is you're talking about, people tend to assume you know what you're doing.
As it turns out, if you don't want to be bothered with music and an authoritative tone, you can just put words in someone's mouth and assert that they don't know what they're talking about, and it works just as well. Out of everything Sarah says, precisely one criticism seems valid. Just one. From what I can tell, Sarah is right about the Steven bombs being the fault of Cartoon Network and not the creators of Steven Universe. Though I don't know that for sure because, surprisingly, it turns out that learning about an entire industry isn't actually as simple as doing some light Googling. But I suppose I don't really care and it doesn't really matter, so I'll just assume Sarah's right about this one thing and give her a big green tick. And hello, Lily was wrong about one thing in a 2-hour-long video. How pathetic. Everything else Sarah says is either partially or completely false. In fact, even the one criticism she got right was misrepresented. She said the complaints about Steven bombs took up a substantial chunk of Lily's video, but in actual fact they only took up 3 minutes and 29 seconds. That doesn't even amount to much in a 20-minute video, but in the case of Lily's 2-hour-long video, 3.5 minutes is less than 3%. Even though a huge part of Sarah's message is anti-nitpicking, here, she has shamelessly picked a nit and then lied to you to make it look like she didn't, and that is just gross. And unfortunately, Sarah's misrepresentation of Lily doesn't end at magnifying tiny mistakes. For example, compare what Sarah said Lily said about Sugar and Concrete to what Lily actually said about Sugar and Concrete.
This video regularly performs these kinds of factually incorrect overextensions. For example, Lily blames showrunner Rebecca Sugar for designing a contentious scrapped character that many felt evoked racist imagery, despite the fact that the character was created by Lamar Abrams and Hilary Florido.
Steven Universe had an art book release that contained a lot of unused gem concepts, such as Steven healing the Earth Beetle to find that she's a very tiny gem, and Amethyst looking like... Oh, that is not good. The whole book featured a lot of unused or scrapped ideas that never made it into the show proper. But then you turn the page and you're greeted with, oh, for fuck's sake, are you kidding me with this shit? Concrete, a gem with pitch black skin, thick, bright white lips, and carries the production note that she can't read. Take a wild guess how that went over. This time, nobody was pulling any punches whatsoever. This was very explicitly racist, and like Bismuth, was just left there out in the open like that. Many people attempted to finalize Concrete's design to make her look like less of a 1930s Warner Brothers cartoon, but that doesn't absolve Sugar of this. Sugar didn't design this, but she seemingly did nothing about its very existence, and it just sat there in the sketchbook. Worse off, when it came time to release the sketchbook, this drawing somehow, beyond all reason, managed to make it into the public hands. And the public reacted very appropriately. The response to this got so heated and so bad that Sugar had to take the rare occasion to actually open her damn mouth and explain herself. These pieces were created carelessly, and it was wrong to include them in this book. While I did not personally create or select this material, I did miss it during the approval process, and I take full responsibility as executive producer.
Lily blames showrunner Rebecca Sugar for designing a contentious scrapped character that many felt evoked racist imagery.
Sugar didn't design this.
Yeah, Lily did no such fucking thing. Sarah either misremembered what Lily said because she was too lazy to take fucking notes, she didn't listen, or she lied. But even if Lily did blame Sugar, even Sugar blames Sugar, Sarah is trying to defend someone who already admitted that she is at fault. Sarah didn't just get this wrong, she got it completely ass backwards on 2 fronts. Anyway, next falsehood.
She then criticizes the animation, pointing out some size inconsistencies in certain characters and a few animation mistakes. Fair, but she then ascribes all of the animation errors present on the show to Rebecca Sugar specifically because Sugar draws the keyframes.
No, she doesn't. She never directly mentions Sugar at all, much less blames her for everything. Now, I'm not going to show you all 6 or so minutes of the relevant footage because I'm not in the business of wasting people's time. So if you don't believe me, here are the timestamps so you can check for yourself. The only times Sugar is brought up in this entire section are in these 2 images. And if you think that translates to exclusively blaming Sugar, then you're either stupid or highly dishonest. Furthermore, her reasons for placing the blame for the animation on the storyboard artists are well substantiated.
That's actually a lie, because this episode wasn't actually animated by Studio Trigger, and here's where I'm gonna rip the rug out from underneath everyone again. This episode was animated by the same South Korean studio that animated every other episode. One person from Trigger was brought on to do the storyboards. Not animate, the storyboards. You see, a lot of shows are animated in South Korea, and if there's one thing that characterizes South Korean animation, is that they ain't got time for any of your shit. They will give you the exact kind of animation your storyboards tell them to give you. Simply put, if your storyboards suck, your animation will also suck. Looking at the storyboards from most Steven Universe episodes, they look haphazardly drawn. Now, storyboards in general had never been the pinnacle of art, they're strictly utilitarian, but you'll notice there's a consistent theme of a single line drawing. Somebody drew it with the pencil tool in MS Paint and quite frankly didn't give a shit. It's no surprise the characters are constantly going off model and warping in size when this is what your boards look like. The big indicators of this is simply the filmography of the 2 studios who animate the show. Sunmin Image Pictures, whose body of work includes Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, Ben 10, and Gargoyles, and Rough Draft Studios, whose body of work includes Ren and Stimpy, The Critic, Rocko's Modern Life, Dexter's Lab, Pinky and the Brain, King of the Hill, Johnny Bravo, Daria, The Powerpuff Girls, SpongeBob SquarePants, Chalk Zone, Samurai Jack, the old one and the reboot, Kim Possible, Codename Kids Next Door, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Danny Phantom, American Dragon Jake Long, The Modifiers, Phineas and Ferb, Gravity Falls, Uncle Grandpa, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, We Bare Bears, The Simpsons, Futurama, Family Guy, American Dad, Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, Hotel Transylvania, and many others which I did not have time to mention. So if one animation studio, has a body of work like this and features some of the most well-animated cornerstones of anybody's childhood who likely started gawking at the screen when I said this, then I think we can rule out the animators themselves as the ones responsible. And of course, Mindful Education, which had a guest storyboard artist, has much cleaner and consistent storyboards that do the job they're supposed to do and communicate with the animators. Mindful Education brought on Takafumi Hori as the lead storyboard artist, and who are the lead storyboard artists in most episodes? I'm shocked. Truly I am. This is my shocked face.
As you can see, Lily isn't ignorant of the animation industry, and she isn't looking to misplace blame on Rebecca Sugar. She saw a problem, she saw what was causing it, and she explained and criticized it very clearly. There is simply no excuse for Sarah to see this and then present it the way she did. Now, our next claim is a bit more complicated, and I'm afraid that some maths is involved, so bear with me. But first, claim.
Furthermore, Lily claims that Rebecca Sugar stole several game-breaking twists, such as character Rose Quartz being the alter ego of supposedly dead leader Pink Diamond, from fans, pointing to the fact that fans had theorized about the twist years before it was revealed. Now, besides the fact that Lily seems to think that foreshadowing working exactly as it was intended to somehow means the show stole the theory from its fans, you would know that this happening is literally impossible if you did even 5 minutes of light Googling on how long it takes between an animated episode being planned and the episode airing. It can quite literally take over a year for an episode to be written, storyboarded, voice acted, sent to Korea for animation, produced, rendered, and sent off to the network for airing. This means that while the episodes that hinted at Rose being Pink Diamond were airing and theories were developing, the episode revealing the twist was already in production. Lily either doesn't know this because she chose not to do any research, or knows this and does not care because the truth of the matter can't be used to insult Rebecca Sugar.
There's a lot wrong with this, and I'm gonna have to address it in 3 parts, and they're gonna overlap, and I'm gonna have to repeat things, and it's gonna be a huge mess, so I'm sorry. First.
Furthermore, Lily claims that Rebecca Sugar stole several game-breaking twists, such as character Rose Quartz being the alter ego of supposedly dead leader Pink Diamond, from fans, pointing to the fact that fans had theorized about the twist years before it was revealed.
No, she didn't. She didn't say any of that. She only ever mentioned 2 twists as far as I can remember, and this is what she said about them.
It gives hints that Lapis might have PTSD. It gives hints that Peridot might have self-worth issues. It gives hints of character development. This isn't good writing, it's lazy writing. The sad thing is it's lazy writing that works. When I did my video about Tempest Shadow, one of the most common attempts at a refutation from people was to accuse me of not being able to see hints of character development and people speculating on what Tempest's life could have been. But I did see those hints of character development, and I did speculate on their potential. But I also rightfully concluded that because the movie didn't bother to do anything with that potential, then that potential was irrelevant. This is something most fandoms can't grasp, and why hinting at character development is the easy way out for a lot of shows. Steven Universe hints at something interesting about a character and just fucking leaves it there. The fandom picks it up and speculates, concocts elaborate theories that delve into layers of intrigue, and then concludes that because of all this speculation that Steven Universe is an amazing show. Do you see what's just happened though? Rebecca Sugar is getting all the credit and praise, but the fans are the ones doing all the real work. They're writing elaborate story ideas that the show will never even try to use, but she's getting all the credit for it. Steven Universe is providing little more than a collection of writing prompts and being heralded as an amazing and deep show just because a bunch of far more creative people can write 50 pages based off those prompts. The big twist of the show is that Rose is Pink Diamond, but that twist was guessed by the fandom the moment Pink Diamond's name was first mentioned, and I said at the time that the Rose is Pink Diamond theory was without a doubt the worst possible way to end that entire arc, which meant Sugar was definitely going to do it. Worse off, not only does Steven Universe rely on the fans to imagine a better show in its place, it actively mocks them for doing so. In the episode Lion 4 Alternate Ending, Steven spends an episode deconstructing Rose's tape and trying to find the answer to his purpose in life. This has been a common trend for fandom theory since the start of the show, namely, why did Rose give herself up to bring Steven into the world? Steven investigates as much as he can and finds a tape for Nora and spends the rest of the episode trying to discover who Nora is. Nora is just what Steven's name would have been if he was a girl, and the only reason he exists at all is just because Rose wanted a baby. This has got to be the most erratically written story arc in the entire series, and seemingly came right out of nowhere as a bomb to drop onto everything. The Pink Diamond arc lays out the truth of Sugar's writing. She's going entirely with what she thinks might be the most subversive choices, regardless of whether or not they contradict each other. Sugar is so desperate for people to think her writing is smart that she has completely abandoned telling an engaging story in favor of setting up another shocking twist. And Rose Quartz had her entire character hacked up to pieces to achieve that goal. Now I can already hear you angrily typing out your comments that, well, actually, Sugar intended this to be the revelation from the very beginning and laid out all the hints. It was hinted at from the very start. And I'm gonna stop you right there and say, no it wasn't. She is fucking with you. The only indication we have that Sugar planned this Rose's Pink Diamond twist out from the very start is that Sugar said she did, and Cartoon Network released a compilation of all the clues throughout the series. Now here's where I'm gonna spoil a writer's trick for everyone. You see, if you want to have a twist, but you don't know what that twist is going to be, you can lay clues throughout a series that are so vague you can warp them to retroactively mean whatever you want. You're exploiting hindsight bias to trick people into thinking your writing is smarter than it actually is. In the case of this compilation that Cartoon Network so proudly displayed, many of their own clues don't imply that Rose was Pink Diamond, even in hindsight. They imply that Rose had secrets. What those secrets were are not in any way implied. They're so vague and open-ended that it could mean Rose was Pink Diamond, it could mean she was secretly Jehovah. Pearl silencing herself only means that Rose ordered her to keep a secret. It doesn't imply what that secret was. Again, it could mean that Rose is Pink Diamond, it could also mean that Rose liked to force Pearl to fuck random people for a larf. Those aren't hints that Rose is Pink Diamond, they're hints that something happened. A something that was vague enough so as to technically fit once Sugar actually decided what it was.
She said that the fan theories were better than the story arcs in the actual show. She said that the foreshadowing didn't actually foreshadow anything specific and ergo did not work, Sarah. And she said that Sugar's writing is erratic and contradictory. None of that is accusing Sugar of stealing anything. It's true that nothing Lily said explicitly contradicted the accusation that Sugar stole fan theories, and that said accusation would fit alongside Lily's criticisms, but that's not the same as Lily actually believing and asserting that Sugar stole fan theories, and she shouldn't be held to something just because she didn't explicitly disprove it. Lily can't be expected to preempt every piece of bullshit someone decides to make up about her. She's just a girl, not a god.
It can quite literally take over a year for an episode to be written, storyboarded, voice acted, sent to Korea for animation, produced, rendered, and sent off to the network for airing. This means that while the episodes that hinted at Rose being Pink Diamond were airing and theories were developing, the episode revealing the twist was already in production.
So this entire argument is based on something that Sarah has simply made up, but I'm going to pretend it's not because I want to show just how hypocritical she is being about all of this. She says the rose pink diamond twist couldn't have been stolen because an episode can take over a year to produce. False. For one, her estimate of over a year is uncharitable. After some light googling, I found out that, for example, an episode of Adventure Time takes about 9 months to produce. Now, Adventure Time staff does look like it's about twice the size of Steven Universe's, so I'll let it slide. But do keep in mind that Sarah, who has been complaining about a lack of understanding of and research into the animation industry, could only give a single vague, unsourced estimate of how long episodes take to produce. No range, no margin for error, no clear lower bound, no factoring in staffing and budget, and no sources. Just take my word for it. It can be over a year or something. Next, even if we run with her estimate, or even go so far as to double it, there's still enough time for Sugar to steal the twist from her fans. The first instance of the fan theory I could find with some light googling, never mind the first one to actually pop up, was from 2015, but the episode revealing the rose pink diamond twist wasn't made until just a month earlier in 2018. So even if we say that an episode of Steven Universe takes 2.5 years to produce, which would be ridiculous, and we further assume that the fan theory I found was the first one, which is also ridiculous, that still gives Sugar 6 months to steal that fan theory. And that's what makes this next bit so disgusting.
Lily either doesn't know this because she chose not to do any research, or knows this and does not care because the truth of the matter can't be used to insult Rebecca Sugar.
It's one thing to wrongly accuse someone of not doing research, and it's one thing to accuse someone of wrongly attacking someone else, but to wrongly accuse someone of being dishonest because you were too lazy to live by your own fucking standards and do the bare minimum amount of research, that is just despicable. Sarah claimed that she didn't want to attack Lily Orchard, but she has just insinuated that Lily chose to leave out vital information just to attack someone, and Sarah didn't back up her claim with any substantial evidence. You can't say that isn't an attack. And we're still not done, because Sarah also said,
and because of Lily's personal dislike for Sugar, she's turned to ascribing characters and episodes that Sugar didn't even create as like proof of her detestability.
No, she didn't. The only time Lily ever explicitly said Sugar was involved in an episode was during the section where she discussed Yellow Diamond's characterization. And it turns out that Sugar made every episode Lily said she made, and didn't make every episode Lily said she didn't make. But I suppose that's just nitpicking, since that's not really what Sarah meant. I've avoided addressing this until I was done with all the specifics because I wanted to deal with each issue separately for the sake of simplicity. But now I guess I have to talk about it. There's been one core wrong assumption underpinning Sarah's entire analysis of Lily's video. This idea that Lily is being unfair in disproportionately blaming Rebecca Sugar for everything that happens in the show. This should go without saying, but Lily isn't focusing on Sugar because of some personal vendetta. It has in fact never been established that Lily had any prior knowledge of Sugar before she worked on Steven Universe. No. Lily is focusing on Sugar because she's the showrunner and the executive producer of Steven Universe. Even discounting the fact that Sugar demonstrably personally contributed to several problematic things in the show, including, but not limited to, the human zoo, the objectification of Stevani, and the attempt to redeem the genocidal diamonds. Even discounting the fact that, as executive producer, she has a great deal of control over the content of the show, even discounting that, she has chosen to be affiliated with Steven Universe, and she has chosen to be publicly known as a creator, and that means the show's content reflects on her, whether she has any control over it or not. If she doesn't want to be associated with Steven Universe, then she should not associate with Steven Universe. And she does have a lot of control. Yes, it's true that Sugar doesn't have a hand in every little thing that happens on Steven Universe, but she's the one who's supposed to be in charge. She's supposed to oversee everything, approve everything, and make sure people are doing their goddamn jobs. In fact, as executive producer, it is literally her job to make sure technical standards are met. So you know that entire section where Sarah throws a fit about Lily being too hard on Sugar for the animation? That section would be completely moot even if Lily blamed Sugar exclusively, because checking the animation is literally part of Sugar's job. Sarah has been presenting this as if Lily hates Sugar for no good reason and she's using Steven Universe as an excuse to disparage her, but Lily doesn't hate Rebecca Sugar. She hates the creator of Steven Universe. Okay, I know a lot of people are confused because The creator of Steven Universe is Rebecca Sugar, and thinking is too hard for people, but let me put it this way. If we lived in a parallel universe where everything was exactly the same, except Steven Universe was created by, say, Ephraim Farias instead of Rebecca Sugar, then Lily would have been screaming at Farias for being a creep this entire time. Do you get it? This has nothing to do with Lily having a personal problem with anyone. This is about Lily having a problem with someone who created a morally reprehensible show because they created a morally reprehensible show. If Sugar hadn't created Steven Universe, Lily wouldn't have a problem with her. And right now you're probably thinking, well, that's great and all. Actually, I have no idea what you're thinking, but it's kind of strange that you went out of your way to hair split the difference between Lily accusing Sugar of designing a racist character and Lily berating Sugar for letting it get published, or Lily hating Sugar for being Sugar and Lily hating Sugar for creating Steven Universe. You know, you hair split all that, but you're just gonna leave the nail in the coffin? And to that I say, I'll get there, untwist your panties. But first I have to get through some preamble. Okay, so the fact that you need me to explain to you why those clips Sarah showed are bullshit demonstrates less of a problem with what Lily said and more of a problem with your critical thinking skills. In the age of the internet where quote mining is rampant and videos built around just giving people context for basic things are a dime a thousand, you should have known to take those clips with a bag of salt. If you're shown someone saying something without any surrounding context and your bullshit detector doesn't break, then you are the one with a problem. But there's no use complaining about a problem when I can just fix it, so here is some context for those clips and quotes. Not all, because I don't want to make you sit through 20 minutes of footage just for the sake of completeness, but enough for you to hopefully understand.
In their debut episode, Stevonnie is creeped on by some skeezy fuck, but the moment their fusion destabilizes, this happens.
That's 2 kids! I'm out.
Okay, great. Well done, Kevin. You passed the basic minimum requirement of a human being. Here's your mediocre trophy. Except Kevin and Stevonnie have another encounter in the episode Beach City Drift, and not only does Kevin remember that Stevonnie has 2 kids fused, he continues to hit on them.
Your whole 2 kids in a beautiful trench coat routine won't fool me this time, so don't even try it. I know you want to be close, but this is a little clingy.
Kevin is literally hitting on 2 kids, and is aware of that fact. The episode portrays him as a bog-standard creep that literally every woman on the planet has met at least once in their lives, but Kevin's disturbing behavior goes a lot deeper than that, and none of the writers notice or seem to care. Hi, this is Lily. I'm cutting in because as I was editing this bit, I found a little nugget of information about Stevonnie straight from Sugar's mouth. In an interview in 2015, Sugar talked about her supposed intent behind Stevonnie, and it reads like this. Stevonnie challenges gender norms as an individual, but also serves as a metaphor for all the terrifying firsts in a first relationship, and what it feels like to hit puberty and suddenly find yourself with the body of an adult. How quickly that happens, how it feels to have new power over people, or to suddenly find yourself objectified, all for seemingly no reason, since you're still just you. And they are still just them. They're Steven and Connie, who you already know and relate to. And if you do, you can feel, for this episode, what those feelings are like. Okay, first of all, that's not how puberty works, you fucking idiot! You don't just suddenly have the body of an adult, you develop it over time! No 14, 15, or 16-year-old has a fully developed body, that's just a stupid idea people have from teenagers being played by grown-ass adults on TV! You want to showcase puberty? Give Stevonnie a cracked voice and acne! That's what fucking puberty is like! But that wouldn't be conventionally attractive now, would it? Second of all, your best way to demonstrate being objectified is to literally fucking objectify Stevonnie? That's your best excuse? Holy fucking, this isn't a metaphor. This is just being the thing. Sugar, you are such a fucking creep. When it comes to the other crystal gems, Pearl is coated white because she's shaded that way and gets away with attempted murder, and Amethyst is... Okay, Amethyst is actually kind of lost on me because I'm not as perceptive as I like to think I am, but I've heard people claim she's black-coated, I've heard others saying she's Latin, and honestly, either one makes my point anyway. My point is, when Pearl fuses with someone, the fusions that are created tend to be graceful and are often accompanied by smooth, easy-listening music. Opal, Sardonyx, Rainbow Quartz, they're all graceful dancers taking more from Pearl than anybody else. So what happens when Garnet and Amethyst fuse? They turn into a hideous, ape-like, violently aggressive monster with absolutely no impulse control and needs to be subdued by Pearl. But hey, at least Amethyst is the one who's wielding the whip.
I forgot how great it feels to be me.
Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Is that Mila Kunis? Hang on, I'm gonna look this up. Really? Nicki Minaj? Voicing a hideous evil monster? Great, that's fucking great. That's what, a bad 4chan meme? Funnily enough, Sugilite appeared in the next season but was suspiciously unvoiced, and season 1 audio was recycled for a brief clip in Know Your Fusion. Why do I get the sneaking suspicion that this design was not disclosed and then when the episode aired, someone was pissed? Anyway, the best part about this episode is that Sugilite, who is characterized as the most out-of-control angry bitch, has to be subdued by the dainty and feminine Pearl. Sorry, did I say best? I meant depressing. The most blatantly daunting part about this episode is that this subduing of a large black woman is considered a way to make Pearl better as a character and a person. Pearl's growth in this episode hinged on her ability to tear apart a large, unrepentant black woman. She sings a damn song about how she can't be strong in a real way until she can take on this big fucking brute. Jesus Christ, Rebecca, are you on fucking Ambien? There are very rare instances where these issues are openly presented, such as art house films like Schindler's List and The Pianist. Steven Universe is one of those rare instances. The main antagonist of the series, the Great Diamond Authority, showcases every last one of the traits I listed above. The diamonds have convinced the other gems that diamonds are perfect and without flaws, unlike other gems in the Empire. At one point, despite being literally built to be tech experts, Yellow Diamond explicitly shouts that the puny thoughts of a Peridot are beneath her.
You are out of line.
I just think...
I'm not interested in the puny thoughts of a Peridot.
Herr Kommandant! I'm only trying to do my job.
Yeah, I'm doing mine.
Sir, she's foreman of construction.
We're not going to have arguments with these people.
Garnet's first appearance before other gems was considered to be so abhorrent that Blue Diamond ordered that she be immediately killed. They literally keep people as slaves, and they have shattered millions of gems and are cooking them in a combination mass grave and weapon of mass destruction. Just look at this scene of Steven and Peridot emerging into the cluster's chamber. They're looking onto literally millions of bodies. That's pretty fucking direct for a children's show. So the diamonds are about as Nazi as you can get without having them do a ridiculous salute.
My diamond. Peridot reporting in.
Actually, never mind, they have that too. Okay, so Steven Universe is pulling absolutely no punches in its portrayal of fascism. That's more bold than any cartoon would ever have the balls to do. There's just one problem. Rebecca Sugar isn't actually aware that she's done this. To so thoroughly depict a fascist regime with a disturbing amount of accuracy, only to then turn around and insist that they're just misunderstood babs that need a hug, okay, throughout this video, I've made multiple attempts to attribute Sugar's writing to overwhelming writing flaws like tunnel vision, or wanting to have a story both ways, or trying to do literally everything and it's just not working out the way she hoped. I do that because people get really touchy if you start directly insulting someone on a basis other than the merits of their work, and I try to at least give people as little reason to strawman me as I possibly can, even though they're going to do it anyway. Hi, Gamer Gazi. But honestly, after writing all that out and reading through it and thinking about it, I can't say anything else but, God, what a piece of shit. Just a thoroughly loathsome person. I mean, obviously this show meant something at some point, and I've clearly been passionate about it, otherwise I wouldn't have been taking it apart for 50 pages, and I know Sugar has her deep admirers, but I fucking think the woman's terrible.
Lily was screaming at Sugar for depicting racism and pedophilia, and for defending fascism, and yet all Sarah can do is complain about her tone. It's not as if Sarah wasn't aware of these things, because she quote-mined these sections. She saw Lily criticizing a children's show for being racist, for defending fascism, and for making light of pedophilia, and she decided that this wasn't important information. And worse, she decided that nitpicking about Lily's supposed ignorance of the animation industry took priority. Even if Sarah's criticisms were valid, she's ignoring the actual point of the video in order to overanalyze sections of the video that are on the level of flavor text and set dressing in comparison. In other words, she's doing this.
So in this frame, Fairy Princess Sparkletina's sash is sky blue, and in the next shot of her sash is cerulean. Clearly, the animators do not care about consistency or quality.
And that wouldn't be so bad, except she's failing to acknowledge issues that are already frequently ignored and literally deadly. It's... How do I explain this? It's one thing to make people think that The Very Hungry Caterpillar is a bad book and not worth reading just because of inconsistent drawings. You know, no one's really gonna miss out on that much by forsaking The Very Hungry Caterpillar. But It's fucking disgusting to turn people off of a book like some secret should never be kept, especially for something as trivial as poor quality drawings. But I'm not just angry because of important issues being swept under the rug and kept in the closet. Something it's important to remember is that Lily isn't an obscure person. If Sarah had made this video about someone like me who's completely unheard of, no one would be as angry as I am now. But Lily has stalkers. There are entire websites dedicated to disparaging her and making up nonsensical bullshit to demonize her with. If you accuse Lily of doing anything that can be interpreted as remotely bad, then whether you intend it or not, you are making propaganda that people will, not might, but will use to justify actual hateful screeds, along with harassment, bullying, and stalking someone who already has too much to deal with. And that doesn't mean I'm saying you should never criticize Lily. Like anyone, she is accountable for her actions, so if she genuinely fucks up, that's on her. But if you decide to criticize her, or anyone really, then you should make damn sure that your criticisms are valid. You should meet the bare minimum standard of correctly quoting them, understanding their arguments, and accurately presenting their content. And if you can't be trusted to do that, you need to either put something in place to make sure you do, like supporting every claim with clips and screenshots or writing a script, or you need to use a simpler source that you can understand, or you need to keep your mouth shut, because an innocent person shouldn't have to suffer from someone else's laziness, stupidity, short-sightedness, or bias. That said, please don't misunderstand me. As much as I'm extremely angry at Sarah for what she's done, I don't hate her, and as much as I find it incredibly hard to believe that all of this could have been an accident, I also find it hard to believe that she did this out of malice. As far as I'm concerned, all we can expect her to do is publicly correct her mistakes, apologize, and put something in place to stop this from happening again. If she does that, then, well, it's not up to us to forgive her, but it's also not up to any of us to sentence her either. So don't go making her life miserable out of some twisted sense of chivalry or righteousness. Correct the misinformation. Bring this to her attention, but don't make her suffer on Lily's behalf. Also, before you say it, the possibility that this entire thing is elaborate satire isn't lost on me, but if that turns out to be the case, then that's pretty fucking irresponsible and selfish.